Oh, hello, welcome to the enchanted kingdom of Hermione. We're up in the turret of pleasure. It's hot, man. First good hot day we've had in a while. And so, of course, I've been sitting in the turret watching YouTube videos and with the fan on. And it's starting to look like I'm getting lumped in with a lot of what I call vinyl channels. And these are channels, and there seems to be a few of them now, where guys sit in front of their record collections and talk about their LPs, which is kind of what I do, I guess, except I do it in a room full of CDs, which are completely unhip. But I've been watching them, and some of them are kind of annoying because, there's certain things that these guys think that I don't think because I've been collecting records since they were cutting edge. And there's a lot of things that the new breed of record collectors do or promote that really drives me nuts. And so I just thought, well, maybe what I should do just to get the ball rolling, since, if you can't beat them, join them, right? So since I'm essentially considered by some bots or algorithms somewhere as a vinyl channel, figured I'd do a vinyl channel episode. And so I tried to distill the essence of the channels I've been watching. And I'm not going to mention any of them by name because they've all got their good points and their bad points. A lot of them are pretty obviously sale sites. In fact, there's the Beatles one, Parlogram Auctions. It's an auction site. They do great videos. If you like the Beatles, Parlogram are really informative. Guy gets his stuff right. He knows his stuff. And so I figured, okay, I'm going to dig in the collection. Now, there's a small problem. I wanted to dig in the collection and find the kind of records that get me excited. Now, most people in these videos, on these channels, it inevitably comes around to how much is this record worth? And it's very much like the stock market to some people. And I find this, well, I'm of several minds. It's great because all these records I bought for a nickel back 25 years ago are worth $500 each. And that's pretty cool. But it also, like, people are thinking that records are good for, I think, all the wrong reasons. And a lot of them, there's one young fellow had a video. I watched a couple of his videos, and this guy can't be 18. And he's bought a bunch of reissues, mostly represses, of classic stuff from the 60s. Love Forever Changes, I think, was one. He got really excited about the West Coast experimental, what the fuck were they called? Art rock ensemble or whatever they were, who, if I remember correctly, and I was a child, I thought they were just about the worst band I'd ever heard in my life. So, to each his own. But anyway, I think it made me think, well, so what would I consider to be a record worth showing the vinyl collecting world? And put my own spin on it. I got a real small pile. So we're going to go through a couple of kind of types. Now, for me, vinyl it's more about the chase than the catch. It's like I love going into a junk store and finding a huge box of records that look has an inch of dust on it. And I know I'm getting old. This gets harder. But I know there's going to be one record in there that I'm going to go, yeah, okay. And so, and one of the things that I've always said, and I said it before in my videos about CDs, is knowledge is power. So some of these I'm going to show you are great. The first bunch, there's 4. And I'm trying to remember where these first 3 are from. I do distinctly remember paying $0.25 each for them. And this would have been quite a long time ago, probably early 1980s. In those days, you couldn't give this guy's records away. I don't know why. And I discovered him. And here we have Blind Joe Death, John Fahey. Now, this is a subsequent, I call this the subsequent pressing. This would be the probably third, maybe third pressing. Still quite rare. This is a black label of volume 2, and these are in really good shape, like other than the mold in the covers. And we got volume 3 here. This one is, again, there's a little mold stain on the edge. But other than that, this is another subsequent one. But you can tell by the terrible labels, these are early black Tacomas. Their labels always, they make it look like 78, which is so appropriate. Which I didn't bring out. I don't know why I didn't bring it out, but I have volume 4. Now, volume 4 didn't come from this batch. Volume 4 I actually bought down the street at a record store recently, where a guy recently had a record store where he had things like $30 on Journey records, and he had volume 4 in this series for $5. And I looked up on Discogs, they're worth about, well, these would be worth at least $50 each with the stains and things on them. That's being fairly picky. The records are perfect. As perfect as Tacoma can be, because if you know anything about original Tacomas, these were beastly pressings. They were not good. They were shellac records almost. It was just completely awful. Anyway, that I got in a record store, in a bin, where they consigned all the stuff that they thought was crap. Here, it's a quarter. Get rid of it. And it was like, okay. So I bought those in another record store. The record stores are doing this. And this was, again, maybe late 80s, early 90s. I worked in a record store where a very, very popular item for sale were T-shirts. And the best way to display these shirts were to wrap them around a record cover. So what this meant was we needed a whole big pile of record covers that were worth only their value as T-shirt wrap. And the fellow who made these decisions is a lovely guy, and only recently has started a well-earned retirement. But he really should have had somebody else picking these records, because he'd never heard of some of these artists. And so when I was putting these out, I found this in the T-shirt pile. Now, this would have been, because it's a double, this would have been torn in half down the middle, and it would have happily yielded 2 T-shirt wraps. Fortunately, I got to it before this happened, and I sort of very shamefacedly, do you think I could maybe take this one? Yeah. So this is, I don't remember what this was on Discogs, but again, it's probably just under $100. It's an original Westbound, perfect shape, cover's real good. Every time I look at it, I think this could have been torn in half and turned into T-shirt wrap. Another record store, which I would eventually have an ownership stake in, believe it or not, had a 99-cent bin. And I can't, most of my records aren't here. They're at the Lap of Luxury, which sadly is in the Dominion of Canada. So, but I've got this one here, and the 99-cent bin, I think the Fahey's are he had a 25-cent bin and a 99-cent bin. And this was stuff that, now bearing in mind this would have been in the late 70s, early 80s. Records such as this, and there's the 99-cent sticker still on it, eh? But just to make sure, and this, a lot of people did this, just to make sure, he took a grease pencil, but a big 0 on it. Cover is worn to hell. Now, the thing about this is I can't find one of these for sale on Discogs, because this is the U.S. MAM issue. Now, in England, this came out on Regal Zonophone. But actually, this is Canadian's copy. This is in, well, really, not quite mint shape, but mint. And by the way, this is an absolutely great record. Rockpile, I Hear You Knockin' was the hit, which is probably the only reason it came out in Canada. Lord knows how many copies they sold here. But this one was sold and was looked after by somebody. Oh, maybe their name is in here. What's this? I see a name. I love stuff like this. Alan Dashwood. Well, Alan Dashwood, if you're out there, I got your record now. This is worth probably a lot like $40 on Discogs. So, if you're looking for it. Okay, then now I'm going to Vancouver. Had a great store called, what the hell was it called? High Life. And like all creative good record stores, they had a budget bin with the stuff that had been sitting there for too long, and they were sick of the sight of it. Get it out of here. And they would buy a lot of weird stuff on spec. And two of them, this was $1.99 each, was Low Life by Peter Brotzman and Bill Laswell, which is bass saxophone and electric bass duets on celluloid. You have to like bass saxophone and bass duets in order to fully appreciate this record. I think it's a hoot. $1.99, you bet I'd buy it. Now it's worth about $60. And and the other one that I love, and I've used this for a lot of things, Phil Minton. Now I don't know if Phil Minton's not very well known, but he's a British free improviser of the freest sort, and his solo singing involves much printed word, noise sounds. Recorded by David Vorhaus. I think this is on Fred Frith's label Rift. And again, I've used this for a lot of pile-ups and things. And Phil Minton I'll buy anything but Phil Minton for $1, boy. And I will then, and I will now. Okay, this is a bit of a change now. Now, I rarely, this has been the case since, I'm going to say 2000, do I go into a record store and find a record that I really want at a price that I'm willing to pay. Now, I'm a cheapskate. I don't pay full whack for records. The most I've ever paid for any of my records, I think, is $75. And that was for my quad copy of Everything You Know Is Wrong with the Firesign Theater, and that counted the shipping and everything. So that's about my limit. But I was in Calgary, and this would have been a lot like 20 years ago. And I don't go to many record stores because I know there's not going to be anything I want, or if I do, it's going to be like way too much money. And I found the great lost Sam Rivers record. Now, Sam Rivers is really, really underrated, unknown, free jazz. He did big bands, he did solo sessions. Very briefly played with Miles, who took him on a tour of Japan in, I think it was 64. And immediately fired him, didn't like playing with him. And he's made a lot of records. He's died a few years ago. It took me a month to find out he was dead. That's a little of a ripple it made in the music world, because he had retired in some comfort to Florida and assembled a great big band there out of a bunch of locals who were really good players. And he made a couple of just totally dynamite records. Big ensemble records. And RCA put them out. Really good records. Worth a fortune now if you can find them on CD. But in the mid-70s, he did a series of records for Impulse. And Impulse was, by the time this particular record came out, completely on its last legs. The Cool Green label. This record is in perfect shape. Now, this was $10. And I remember I didn't actually know anything about this record, but I knew he had made a bunch of Impulse records, and I had a bunch of them in quadraphonic, because Impulse adopted quadraphonic briefly and put out a Sunron quad, a few other neat things. But this one was the absolute end of the road, and I do believe, and I don't have any way of looking it up very quickly, but let's just see. What year is this? There is no year. There it is, 1976. I do believe this is right before ABC Records, who were the parent company to Impulse, was bought by MCA. And that was the end of the ABC era, which was a long era. And Impulse was just sort of let Edmund Edwards produce this. This has Dave Holland on a really weirdly mic'd up bass. It's got a weird pickup on it. And Ted Dunbar on guitar, Barry Elchel on drums. This is, and Warren Smith on drums, vibes, and timpani. So this is as close as Rivers got to a fusion record. And of course, as always, he plays 4 different instruments. There's 4 songs on it. He plays tenor on one, soprano on the other, flute on one, and piano on one. And I'll tell you what, in my world, this is an A+ record, other than the weird recording of the bass, which really gets annoying. And for $10, it never came out on CD, to which I had to actually burn myself a CD to play in my CD player. And here's the best part. I was really happy to pay $10 for this. It's not worth $10. It's worth, well, maybe $10 now. The corner cut off is no good. Now, I don't know a whole lot of these green label Impulses that didn't have the corner cut off. So the thing that makes me laugh is I actually paid, what I think is fair money for a record, and it turns out to not be worth anything. I don't know why, because it's a jazz record that never came out on CD by a very major artist. But, speaking of jazz major artists, my last one, my dear friend Brendan, who bartended at Logan's Pub with me for, 20 years, one day came in and he says, "Do you like Miles?" I went, "Yeah, I love Miles. I got this record. I don't play it. Do you want it?" And I go, "Well, what is it?" He goes, "It's double LP of," and he kind of didn't describe it. I said, "Well, yeah, sure, I guess." And it turned out to be the sort of DJ vinyl version of Laswell's remix remodel, which I quite like. But it's a Sony Jazz Columbia. Now, this appears to me to have been targeting DJs. Beautiful labels, And he said, "No, I'll give it to you. You can have it." Well, Brandon, I owe you a beer at least, because I just looked this up, and it's going for about $200. And I have the CD of this, so I ain't gonna play this very often. What to do? Well, there's always Discogs. I will mention that I looked all these things up on Discogs, and Discogs is turning into kind of a scary thing, because it's starting to get to be like, remember in the good old days when hockey cards, people were speculating in hockey cards, and I kind of smelled a rat when the guys I knew who were doing it the hardest didn't follow hockey. And I get this, I said the same thing. If you're gonna just play the stock market, don't, And boy, how many there was like 9 hockey card shops in this town at one point, if I remember right. And now there might be one. So records, I have a funny feeling they might well do the same thing. The young fellow who's discovering all the psychedelic records on the vinyl channel went through a whole record of describing it, and finally at the end he actually said what the music was like. And to me, I don't know, that should kind of be the first thing you talk about, but it was all about, and okay, here's a rule for you people younger than me that may well just be getting into vinyl. Represses aren't really cool. Represses are a necessity. If you're gonna, for me, if you want great sound, go buy the CD. If you want a cool artifact of a special record in its original release, sure, get the vinyl and get a good one, get a good system. But that's more of a, for me, I want to hear the music. I don't care. I'm so lazy now, this is true, now that I'm old, that I will go to YouTube and find the song I want to listen to on my stereo here, rather than go and look for the CD in my racks. If I know it's on YouTube, I'll just go there and listen to it on YouTube. For me, it sounds just as good. And it's all about, I want to hear that song now. Ease of access. This stuff I like to keep because I like keeping hard copies. And same with records. I'm glad I have a LP of that Sizzle record, because I don't know if it streams anywhere. I don't know. I don't trust these people. I want my own copy. Anyway, yeah. So there you go. There's part one. Now I've got records at the Lap of Luxury that I'm gonna have to dig through and find. I got a couple, and these are gonna be good ones because they're. I don't think they're worth a fucking dime, but they're so cool. And I'm not gonna spoil it. I'm gonna have to go find them. Some of them are so cool. I can't believe that they're not worth a lot of money to somebody. But none of them cost me diddly squat. Like, never a dollar. And I bought a lot of records at the turn of the century and maybe the 90s to the 2010s when people were chucking them out by the shovelful. And I bought a million 25-cent records or less. And I've still got most of them. Some of them are really worth money. All of them were worth buying because they were great things to listen to. And so, yeah, there's my take on it. How much records are worth is completely beside the point to me. In fact, once records got valuable, the first thing I did was unload a whole bunch that were worth money because I didn't care that I had a first pressing of Joy Division. I got the CD. So there you go. Anyways, that's going to be it for now. I'll get back on this tack later when I got more stuff to show off. So don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell or whatever it is. And we will get back at you with other stuff. We'll probably continue in this vein for a while. Show some weird stuff. I've a lot of these records have stories behind finding them, and I'll probably tell some of those. So there you go. Anyways, thanks for watching. Take care of each other, and we'll talk to you later.